All right, good morning. How is everybody this morning? Awake, alert, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. All right, so good morning. My name is Jennifer Martinez. I will be your instructor for the next 12 weeks, getting us through leadership and collaboration. I'm gonna beat your, everybody doing okay? All right, so this morning we have orientation. So we're going to go through orientation, PowerPoint. We'll go through the syllabus. And then we've got two chapters, chapters 4 and chapters 12 to do today. Anybody have any questions before we get started? Nope. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You can see the wonderful PowerPoint. Let me see this up. Can everybody see my screen? All right, cool. So again, welcome to Concepts of Leadership and Collaboration. So online learning, you guys have taken online courses before, correct? So, you have a little bit of an idea. You'll need your computer, obviously, and have internet access. So that, I can interact with you throughout the course. I will be there to provide guidance, lead learning activities, give you guys feedback about your progress. You will have weekly homework assignments and learning activities, as well as quizzes and exams in this course. So all of your homework assignments and things should be required to be completed every week. And another great thing about working with online is you do get to meet students from other Fortis campuses, right? So I will be your first contact for any issues. Communication is key. Under the course in the About Your Instructor, you have access to my email address. You have access to my cell phone number, call, text if there's any issues. I am here for you guys to be successful. That is my goal. And so, if you need additional assistance, you need tutoring, please feel free to reach out. Do you have office hours posted as well? If they do not work for you, again, please reach out to me. I will be providing feedback through your grades and specific feedback through the assignments that you are submitting. If there's any issues, so for any issue, computer access, course questions, grading concerns, please come to me. If I can't help you, I can find somebody that can, or at least point you in the right direction to get the help that you need. Oops. If you have any continued concerns that, whether it's with me or something else, the course lead for leadership and collaboration is Dr. Tenza. And then, of course, if, we need to go further, Dr. Brown, Dr. Darlene Brown is the National Dean of Online Nursing Education. And then if there's any issues, of course, on campus, lab simulation or clinical, that's where your instructor on campus, your campus team will come into play. They would be the ones that could help you with that. Communication. We are in a very diverse environment. Make sure that you state your thoughts in a very courteous, positive, and respectful manner. Being mindful of how you express humorous or emotional statements because these can be misinterpreted. Keep your comments relevant to the discussion. Be considerate of others' experiences, feelings, and perspective. We all have, different views, and that's okay. We just need to be respectful of others. Make sure we use proper language and titles, no slang, and don't type your messages in all caps. This gives the impression that you are yelling, which I'm sure most of you know. We do have specific start and stop times. So our Zooms are going to be from 0900 to 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. So every Tuesday we will meet here together. These live sessions are mandatory. It's just like your campus classes, right? You go on campus, you go to class. These are it's just delivered in a different way. Your course activities, we have, questions, projects, papers, case studies, quizzes, or exams. Your initial discussion post is due by Wednesday at midnight, and then you need to respond to 2 of your peers by Sundays. And then due dates are already set up in your Canvas shell, but you can always look at your syllabus as well. And this is a big one, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before. Academic integrity. We look at standards of student professional conduct. Academic integrity, all incidences of academic dishonesty and violations of academic integrity will be disciplined. So some of the things that we're looking at, cheating, obviously. Plagiarism. Plagiarism is a big one. That's submitting work of another person for credit, or a failure to properly cite references for any work which is not original to the student. That's, copying the work of others, allowing another student to copy your work. Somebody that took the class, a couple terms ago and decides to give you their paper or their assignments, and you try to submit that as your own. That is all plagiarism. There is a thing called self-plagiarism as well. So if you've previously submitted a paper for another class, you can't resubmit the same paper. Unauthorized use of notes or materials in exams, including talking to other students. So during exams, you can't get on chat and talk to other students. There is proctors. You will be proctored for all of your exams. What else? Unpermitted collaboration, giving or receiving aid on a take-home exam or other academic assignments. Allowing others to copy or use work that is not his or her own, providing answers from graded assignments to others. When we look at the American Nurses Association Code of Ethics for Nurses, it serves the following purpose. It's a succinct statement of ethical values, obligations, duties, and professional ideals of nurses individually and collectively. It is our profession's non-negotiable standard. It's an expression of nursing's own understanding of its commitment to society. So the Code of Ethics doesn't just, start basically when you graduate from school and start working. It starts now. So to, get you ready to go into the nursing workforce. This is another thing that has come up. Sites that promote cheating, things like Course Hero, Studugo, Stuvia. There's other ones out there. Use of those sites does not promote honor, ethics, or integrity, and so we are monitoring those sites. If you are found on these sites, that places you on heightened monitoring for your work, for any academic integrity violations. You cannot use these sites in your papers, so you can't reference them. You will receive a 0 for the assignment. A second incident involving the sites will result in a course failure. So you can't post, you can't download in those sites. It does put you at risk of being dismissed from the program. Your campus will be notified about it. So please just, stay off of those sites. Um, it's not beneficial for you as a nursing student. You need to know the information. You need to be able, put the work in order to be successful within the course. Late work policy. So all of your assignments need to be turned in by the due dates. Um, Late work is only accepted with prior approval from the instructor. So emergencies happen. I totally understand that. Life gets in the way. It'd be wonderful if we could put nursing students in a giant bubble while they're in school, so that all of the, outside influences don't affect you while you're in school. However, unfortunately, we cannot do that. If a situation arises and you are unable to get your assignment turned in, please let me know ahead of time. There will still be a deduction, but I will be able to accept it. Within 1 to 7 days, there will be a 10% reduction. After the 8th day, you will get a 0 for the assignment. I just can't emphasize enough how important communication is. Like I said, I am here for you guys to be successful. Your success is my success. So we really need to work together for the next 12 weeks. And so again, if there's any issues, if there's anything going on, not asking you to, tell it out to the whole class, but just kind of keep me in the loop and let me know. Let me help you to the best of my ability. Attendance. So attendance is only recorded during your live session time. And so I take attendance, I can run reports off of Zoom. So to be counted as present in the class, you have to sign in with your full name. So I see everybody has their name on their Zoom. You need to be on camera the whole time. It can't be pointed to the ceiling, pointed to the floor, pointed to the left. I need to be able to see your beautiful faces. Um, Anyone at work or driving will be removed from the session. And then anyone not coming on camera after being asked to will also be removed from the session. And again, I can look at the login and logout times on Zoom to verify the attendance. Any missed attendance is counted in 15-minute increments. So even if you're, 1 or 2 minutes late, it is recorded in 15 minutes increments. Anyone without posting attendance 14 days in a row will be dropped without notification. All right, so you have to come to class just like on campus. There's no makeup for missed attendance. Any early departures, tardies, class cuts will be recorded in quarter-hour increments. Students with chronic absenteeism in excess of 20% of the scheduled hours for a course can receive a failing or reduced grade for their course. So again, usually once you hit 20%, right, you'll get a full letter, can't even talk this morning, full letter grade deduction at the end of the term. So attendance is recorded weekly. Most of the time, you'll get a letter if you've missed a certain amount of class. So at 5%, you'll get an email. At 10%, you'll be required to meet with me, the online dean, as well as myself. And then at 15%, you'll be required to meet with campus administration. Again, you may get the letters, you may not. But just know if you get to that 20% that you are at risk for a full grade deduction in your grade, which could potentially lead to failure of the course. We don't want that to happen, right? We don't want that to happen. Keys to success. So review work that is due each week. So your syllabus is a great outline, right? It tells you what everything, what is due every week. What readings need to be completed. what lessons, you know, the interactive lessons that must be done. Make sure that you're here for the live sessions. Again, these are mandatory. Carefully read the directions and rubrics to all assignments before starting them. I can't stress that enough. When you're writing a paper, when you're doing your NCLEX questions, we don't have CJ-SIM in this course, but make sure you read the directions and follow the rubric. That will help to prevent you from losing any unnecessary points. It also helps to make sure that you stay on topic and that you cover all the necessary information that the paper is at or the assignment is asking for. And then, of course, you know, study. That's always a plus, right? Um, I will be posting quite a few announcements. So make sure that you're logging in, that you're staying connected, that you're reviewing all of the course announcements throughout the week. Make sure that you're submitting assignments when they are due, including your discussions. And then, review question assignments for next week and don't procrastinate. Anybody want to, tell me if you're a procrastinator or not? I am the world's worst procrastinator. I am not going to lie.
I know I'm probably worse than you.
I, um, yeah, and there's been many a times where I've been up, at Sunday at midnight, completing, trying to turn in that assignment, before 11:59. It's not, it's not a good feeling. But yeah, there's ways that you can avoid, procrastination. I always, I always start off really well. Like every time I start a new class, I'm like, this is going to be different. I am going to do it different this time. I'm going to stay on schedule. I'm going to get my assignments started early. And yeah, I, yeah. So I have to work on myself too. Not even going to lie about that. Keep in contact. Again, communication is key. Like I said, I'm here to help you. So whatever it is that I can help with, that is what I'm here for. I mean, I'm not going to give you the answers to the quizzes and the tests and all that stuff, but again, I am here to help you to be successful. So keep in contact with me, email, text, whatever it is. Make sure that you have a reliable internet connection and computer and laptop. Some people like to make schedules. Some people like, you probably can't see, I have a calendar that kind of lays everything out for me that I handwrite. Um, Make sure you have a nice quiet place that's free from distractions to complete work. When I was in school, I would go to Starbucks, I would go to the library, at least one night a week, just because I had kids and a husband and I worked full time while I was going to school. So it was nice every once in a while to try to just get out of the house for a few hours and have somewhere else to go and study. Um, Again, I can't, read all your assignment directions carefully. Um, so I didn't look. I'm going to look right now. Did everybody do their technology quiz and their syllabus quiz? Everybody get into the course yet? Let's see. I'm just going to double check. Looks like it. Awesome. Um, Make sure you have my contact information. Again, it's under the instructor information or I'm sorry. Yeah, it's under your modules under about your instructor. Also in the announcements, I posted the syllabus cover page so you have access to my office hours, my Zoom link, my cell phone number, my email address. So you have all that. Put my cell phone number in your phone so you have it. Again, you can, call, you can text, email with whatever. Um, Look at your syllabus. Make sure that you have the correct textbook. And then if you have any questions, if you're missing anything, please let me know so we can get that taken care of. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask, and you don't have to answer, just think about it. How many of you actually read chapters 4 and chapters 12 for class today? Um, so, you know, um, even if it's just a scan, even if you just kind of go through the chapters, look to see what the highlights of the chapters are, it does make classes a little bit more interactive. It does help us to cover the information a little bit better. And also, if you've already read the information, if you have questions about anything, that gives you the opportunity also to ask questions. Make sure, additional review sessions. And we're going to talk about this after the orientation, but something to think about. We do offer the exam reviews. We also offer the HESI review. And I know everybody's in their last term, right? So you've got your transitions course. You of course have this course. And a lot of hours of clinical to complete this term as well. And then of course, getting ready for your exit HESI. So a lot going on this term. Think of some times, not right this second, but just have it in the back of your head. What days and times work best for you, for your exam reviews. So I don't know what your schedules are for campus. I only know that you're here with me from 9 to 11:30 on Tuesday mornings. So kind of, think about what your schedule looks like, and we're going to come back to that topic. I do have office hours posted. Right now my office hours are Wednesdays from 2 to 3 and Thursdays from 11 to 12. Those are my scheduled office hours. Those are set in stone. Those are not going to change. However, if those times don't work for you, that is fine. I do understand that. Let me know. And we can meet outside of those office hours as long as I'm not in class. So, they're there for everybody. But if they don't work for you, just let me know. If you need additional assistance, if you need tutoring, let me know. Again, we can set them up. And then, of course, if you have any technical issues, logging in, that's where IT or your tech support's going to come into play, as well as myself. If you're having issues, please let me know if you're having any issues logging in, so that we could get those taken care of. Again, weekly review sessions are highly encouraged. These are things that they're held outside of the class time. Again, we're going to do exam reviews. We'll do a HESI review. I do have office hours. Again, you can schedule any additional tutoring outside of that time as well. Those exam reviews are awesome. So I don't know if anybody's attended exam reviews for any of their previous classes, but they really do help. We do take attendance during those sessions. Again, it's not mandatory, it's just highly recommended. Let's see, tutoring again. Tutoring is available. You just need to, we just need to get together, figure out if those office hours aren't good for you. We can figure out additional times that would be better for you. And again, tutoring sessions, those exam reviews, they've increased testing scores, some as much as 20%, 20 points higher. So it is highly recommended. I am not the only one that will be doing the exam reviews. The other course instructors for leadership will be conducting their reviews as well, and we will send you their schedule, the schedule of when the reviews are. So you'll have multiple chances to attend reviews. we'll get back to that.
Are there reviews recorded in case we can't make it?
Yes. Yeah, and so all the recordings will be posted in the announcements so that you can view the recording if you can't make the live session. With courses and assignment grades, weeks 1 through 5, right, the homeworks are going to be turned off. We will turn the homework scores on in week 6. That will help to kind of show you what the impact of homework is on your grade, on your, so if you miss a couple assignments, you'll kind of get an idea of how that's going to impact your KGA scores. And then week 8, we'll turn the homework scores off again. Excuse me. And then the homework scores will stay off until the HESI exam is remediated. So you take your HESI, you need to complete remediation. That's when you'll get your HESI score and final grades will be calculated. Your combined score on quizzes, unit exam, and specialty exam must be 78% or higher before you get credit for your homework. And of course, after homework is added in, you have to, if you have a 78 and we add your homework in, you have to still be above a 78 in order for you to pass the course. For exams for exams and quizzes, you need to have 2 devices for each quiz and exam. So you need your laptop or your computer, whatever it is that you're using, and then a phone, iPad, something that you can run Zoom on. Make sure that they are charged or that you are on a charger. If you go off camera while in the exam, you will receive a 0 for the exam. So just be aware, keep everything charged, ready to go. Quizzes are part of your KGA, so we will complete them in class. The quizzes are designed to be given at the beginning of class. There's only 1 attempt. You'll have 10 questions, 15 minutes to complete your quiz. Make sure that you submit your quiz when you're completed. Any quizzes that are taken off camera will receive a 0. Quizzes cannot be made up for any reason, just like on campus. With your exams are given during your class time. So, I'm trying to think. Let me look real quick. Your first exam is in week 4. So we'll log in just like we're going to have class, and you will complete your exam during class time. So you will have to have that second device. All your tests are going to be given through ExamSoft. Make sure that you read the exam description carefully so you know what the requirements are. You will get your, the password from me in order to start your exam. At the end of the exam, so I know this just from experience. When you go in, you take your exam. When you go to submit, a lot of times it knocks you off the internet, right, while you're taking the exam, and it doesn't let you submit. So you have to go back and you have to reconnect to the Wi-Fi, and then resubmit exam. So there should be a green check mark that shows that you submitted your exam. And then once that is done, you can log out of the testing site. You are only allowed 1 attempt on your exam. You can't stop, you can't pause, you can't resume. If you are having any technical difficulties during your exam, stop the exam and notify me immediately. Exams are timed. So 450 questions usually have 75 minutes in order to complete your exam. If you have accommodations, you need to let me know, like now, at the beginning of the term. If you had accommodations last term, I don't know about it, right? This is, notifications that are less than 10 days before an exam may not be able to be granted in time because there is a process for accommodations. So if you have accommodations, let me know, email me. You should have a letter that, excuse me, states what your accommodations are. Exams are held during the scheduled class time. Exceptions only with written approval by your faculty and copied to the National Online Dean. Not taking an exam during scheduled class time will result in an absence, sorry, lecture time is not able to be made up. Exams can only be proctored with a faculty member on campus with 72 hours notice and must be done during scheduled class time. So if there's a reason why you don't want to take your exam via Zoom and you prefer to take it on campus with a faculty member on campus, that needs to be, you need to give me at least 72 hours notice. That gives me time to coordinate with the on-ground faculty so that they have the appropriate information in order to proctor your exam. Exams are Zoom proctored. So again, you must be on camera the entire time. You have to show your photo ID, your school ID badge, driver's license if you don't have your school ID. You also, when you log in to take the exam, I'm going to go individually. You need to show the whole room. So whatever device you have your Zoom on, you're going to do a 360 view of the testing area. So I can see your desktop, your walls, your desk, chair, your floor, all of that good stuff. No pen and paper. You can use a whiteboard, or I've seen some people use like sheet protectors with dry erase markers, whichever works for you, but no pencil and paper. If your ears are covered, you must show your ears. If you have a religious exemption, we can talk about that separately, so that we can make sure that your accommodations are there. And, there's a lot of y'all students don't assume that we know everybody's individual requirements. If I don't know, if you don't let me know, I don't know. Missed exams are held to the late work policy. So, if you don't, if you miss an exam and you didn't let me know that you weren't going to be there for the exam, that will be a 0. Exams missed for personal reasons will result in a late penalty. So you'll get the 10% deduction. Exams missed due to an emergency will require documentation of the emergency, and that must be submitted to the National Dean of Online Education. The notification must occur within 24 hours of the scheduled exam, and the documentation must be presented prior to the exam being rescheduled. And we understand that emergencies happen. Just make sure that you have your documentation sent in to Dr. Brown, and that, exam still needs to be scheduled within 7 days of the class. Otherwise, it will be a 0. Let's see. Okay, again, I'm gonna probably say this a couple more times during this, but however, communication. I cannot help you if I do not know. If there is an issue that may prevent you from being successful on an exam before the exam, let me know. I had a sick child. I was up all night, didn't get a chance to study. I've had people come in and, bomb a test and then like, well, I've been teaching for about 14 years now. I've had people who have had deaths in their family come in and take an exam, bomb it, and then decide to tell me what happened. Let me know before. I can help you before the exam. But once you sit down and you take that exam, there's nothing that I can do. So if there is an issue, please let me know ahead of time. Again, we want you to be successful, and that's why I'm going to keep saying communication is key. I cannot read your minds. I wish I could. That would make my job so much easier. Sometimes I can't even read my own mind. So just make sure that you are keeping an open line of communication. I'm here to help you. I want you to be successful. With the quizzes and the exams, with the quizzes, your quizzes are located in your modules. So you'll see that the first quiz is actually in week 2, which is next week. The directions are listed at the beginning of the quiz. And then you can go through the quiz, make sure that you read the question, answer the question appropriately, and then, submit it once you are complete. If you are having any technical issues during a quiz or an exam, don't continue. Let me know immediately. Does everybody know how to use the reactions button to raise your hand? Okay, just, if it's a quiz or a test, we're going to raise our hands. I can pull you into a breakout room so we can talk. But if you're having issues, stop and let me know. I can look at I can view the log. I can, look at how many times you have, stopped viewing the testing site. I can see how much time you used. I can review how many questions you saw. And if we can resolve the issue, can also give you a code to re-access the exam. I will not allow a retake of an exam due to technical problems or other physical or emotional issues when the majority of all questions have been answered by the student or time has run out. Your HESI, those are given in the proctored environment. Most your HESIs will be taken on campus. You only get one attempt for your leadership HESI. It is 20% of your testing grade. And of course, the benchmark for your HESI is 900. Remediation is mandatory to get your HESI score. So whatever your remediation time is, you have to complete 100% of that, covering all of the topics, right, that you had listed underneath your HESI remediation. The remediation times are dependent on your HESI scores, right? So remediation packets are to be submitted by 1 a.m. Tuesday of week 12. If you do not turn in your remediation, that will give you a score of 0. And I will say, I'm just being honest, I will stalk you a little bit, email, text, if I see that we're getting close to the deadline and you haven't completed your remediation. So just letting you know that I will do that. I had a student who got, I forget what the score was, but the conversion was a 99.99 on their HESI. Okay. And we were on the last day remediation was due, and they hadn't done any remediation. I am calling, I am texting, I am emailing. And the student was like, but I did, got like they don't give 100 for HESI, but he's like, I got that high a score. And I was like, absolutely did. I was like, but you have to look at the remediation. What is your remediation requirements? I know got a 99.99 on your HESI. However, you still need to complete the 1 hour of remediation. So again, if we're coming up on that time, I will send text reminders. Just be prepared. Because I don't want anybody to lose out on their scores. Exam security, again, you must show your school ID or a photo ID. You have to be on camera at all times. I must be able to see your beautiful faces. If you fail to show your ID or you're not visible at any point, that may result in exam or course failure. Again, contact me if you're having any problems, even, or if you need additional assistance. That is what I am here for. With homework assignments, again, review your syllabi, look at what the assignment requirements are, look at the rubrics. That helps you to identify the requirements that are needed to complete the task, and then schedule. I don't know if anybody likes to use calendars or planners. I've had students print out the syllabus and color code. You can put the dates on the syllabus, however it works best for you. try to, you know, organize as much according to the due dates. Look and see what the prep time for the assignments are. And then schedule schedule yourself some time to complete your assignments. I will say that again, even, you know, reading before class makes class much easier. Just idea, even if it's just scanning the chapters to get an idea of what the chapters are discussing. Title the assignment per course nomenclature. So I will show you that when we get into the modules. This is just an example, you know, of a calendar. Some people like calendars. Some people like planners. Some people put things in their phone, whatever works for you. Late work, again, will not be accepted without prior approval from the instructor. So if there's an issue, you need to let me know. If the instructor approves the submission of a late assignment, points will still be deducted. So 1 to 7 days, you'll have a 10% grade reduction. After, you know, that 8th day comes, that is a 0. Again, you have to have written approval for any late assignments. Your NCLEX instructions, we'll go through this, but in your NCLEX review questions, there's a description that you can, you know, follow the link or follow the directions to choose your questions. I'm like getting tongue-tied all of a sudden. Submissions must be the number of questions required. So for your NCLEX questions here, it's 25 questions. And so once you submit, the score you submit will be the score you received. So if you had 25 questions and you answered, you know, 23 out of them correctly, then that is what your grade will be. You have control over your NCLEX questions, as I'm sure you know, right? You can do your NCLEX questions as many times as necessary to get the best score possible. So whatever your grade is what you submit to me. Let's see, screenshots are not acceptable. Does everybody know how to submit NCLEX questions? Yes, okay. Again, there's no bonus for getting, you know, more questions. So just do what the assignment is asking for. Let's see. Paper assignments are also there. Again, you will have your under your module, you will have the assignment directions. You'll also have a rubric to look at to help you in guiding you, setting up your assignments appropriately, and make sure that you don't miss any necessary information. Unapproved websites. Again, talked about, you know, Studico and, you know, Course Hero. There's so many out there. Quizlet. Those are not approved sites in order to use for references. If you use those, you will receive a 0 for the first offense. On the second offense, you will be failed from the course with a recommendation to the campus for dismissal. If you don't know how to use the resources in Learn, contact your instructor, or you can, I don't know, if everybody should have an LRC manager on their campus that can help them, student success coordinator, but just reach out to me. I've written enough papers. I can definitely help you, whether it's, you know, formatting or even finding appropriate sites. Your best bets are any of your professional organizations, any .orgs like CDC, WHO, or .edu. So when you're doing, anybody use Google Scholar? Google Scholar is awesome. You know that you're going to be able to get some good information. You can also adjust your dates, which I like in Google Scholar as well. So you can, you know, adjust the dates to make sure that your references are, you know, more current. Make sure you're using the current edition of the APA manual. So again, there's the Learn Library, there's the Writing Center. In the announcements as well, I put in some resources for APA. Use your nursing journals. Again, stay away from the Studio Go and other things. Make sure you have sufficient resources for review. And make sure they're no more than 5 years old. 5 years old are usually the more current. You're going to get the most up-to-date information at that point. Summarize the key points in your own words, give your rationales in your own words, and then citing your sources. So you're going to use a combination of in-text citations as well as your reference page for the sites or the resources that you used. Quotations are, I would say, use quotes minimally. If you find a really great quote at some point, and you're like, oh, there's just no way I can paraphrase this, like this is like the perfect quote, then make sure that you cite it appropriately. But I will say paraphrasing is going to be your best bet. And then just some things. Are you prepared? You know, how are you going to prepare for your exams? Obviously we can't go through the exams. I can give you topics that you can review, that you may not have done so well with on your exam. When you are doing your reading, looking, if there's any issues with understanding material, or you just maybe don't have a good grasp on it, let me know. Be prepared to discuss how care is continued once the patient is discharged from the acute care facility. So you guys took community last term, right? So you understand a lot about community nursing. Do the requirements for a nurse change based on the surroundings they work in? And then what's our accountability, whether off or on duty? So these are just some questions, that we have to think about. And I am going to stop sharing my screen. Does anybody have any questions?
I just have a quick question about our PowerPoints. Do you share those at all?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if I just missed them or I did not see them for this week.
Oh, I will fix that.
Okay. Thank you. I apologize.
No worries. No worries. I will. Yep, I did not. I will put them in there. I apologize.
No, that is just what really helps me. It's hard for me to read the books online, so looking at the PowerPoints ahead of time is what really helps me.
Gotcha. Understood. I can definitely put those up there for you. Not a problem. So I'm going to pull up the syllabi now. Just figure out which screen I have the syllabus on. That would be really good. And I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm sure everybody has looked at the syllabus, but we're going to just kind of go through it again real quick. So here's your PNR 205 concepts of, oops, I don't know what I just did to my computer, but that's okay. So the student learning outcomes are outlined for you, as well as your course objectives, right? Your methods, your resources. Please make sure that you have access to your success and practical vocational nursing from student to leader. I saw that everybody registered, so I'm hoping everybody was able to get into their ebook. We are not using CJ Sim in this term or in this course. However, you should still have access to CJ Sims. You have your reference packages as well. Here's your learn information. So you can always click on there. That'll bring you to the online library. And then a lot of your attendance requirements and everything is listed here. Here is your grades. So your unit exams will have 3 exams in this course. That is 55% of your KGA. Then you will have your HESI, which is 20%, and your quizzes are 5%. Then we have our homework. So you will have a professional development plan, which is 7% of your homework grade. Your NCSBN position paper is 8%. Then your NCLEX questions, there's 100 questions. So 4 sets of NCLEX questions for 5% of your grade. And then you have of course, your live review sessions and your discussion questions. So we get down to the course, right? Week 1 started on Monday. So this week you just have your discussion question that is due. Again, first, your initial post is due by Wednesday by midnight, and then you have to post 2 replies by Sunday. So look at the requirements for your discussion board, make sure that you're meeting all of those requirements. Next week is quiz 1. So quiz 1 will be on the material. I will tell you, for quiz 1 and for quiz 2, only quiz 1 and quiz 2, those are going to be given at the end of class. Okay. So quiz 1 and quiz 2 are going to be at the end of class. Quiz 3, 4, and 5 will be at the beginning of class. Okay. So just be aware. Next week, you'll have discussion question 2. Then week 3 is quiz 2. You have your first set of NCLEX questions. Exam 4 is exam 1 is in week 4. And you'll have discussion 3 due then. Week 5 is quiz 3. You'll have a second set of NCLEX questions there. Week 6 is exam 2, and your professional development plan will be due then. Week 7 is quiz 4 and discussion question. Then in week 8, your NCSBN position paper is due with your last set of NCLEX questions. Quiz 5 is week 9. Exam 3 is week 10, and then HESI is week 11. And then your remediation will be due. Any questions about that? Has everybody looked at the syllabus to kind of see what's going on? Okay. And then when we look at your modules, so I am going to pull up. I don't know why that's not published. I fixed that. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. Your professional development plan. All right, so here's the directions for your professional development plan that's due in week 6. All right, so it is a 3 to 4 page paper. It gives you how to submit your paper. And then it gives you, so you're going to go to NAPNES to look at the standards of practice, educational competencies. You're going to describe the competencies, all of that. You can also click the little download button, and that will give you your rubric. Okay, so you have access to all of that. Oops. So I will please, and just all I can say is read the directions carefully. Make sure that when you're writing your paper that you're covering all the requirements. For your second paper, oh Lord, I lost it. for your NCSBN position paper. Okay, so this is a 3 to 5 page paper. You're going to look at the position, you are looking at your rubric, so you have access to all of these wonderful things. I cannot stress enough to follow the rubric. Okay. That will help you to make sure that you are covering all of the key points within your assignments, to avoid losing unnecessary points. Use your resources. My computer is like locked up. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Can y'all? Okay. My computer locked up, so I wasn't sure if it just decided to stop. But again, read your assignment just instructions, and go from there. Any questions so far? Y'all are good? All happy, smiley, shiny faces. Everybody have everything set up on campus? Your hours for capstone, all that good stuff is set? Yeah. Are y'all ready for your exit, Hesse? Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Come on, you can do it. Just a couple other little housekeeping things. Um, if you are a re-entry student, or you are a repeating student, I'm not calling anybody out because I don't know. You don't have to yell it out either. Let me know. We are required to meet weekly, so we do need to set those up, if needed. Trying to think, there's something else I wanted to say. Oh, I what days of the week are you guys in class other than my class?
Every day.
Every day, 5 days a week. Okay. All right. I will do a poll here in a few minutes to kind of see what may work best for everybody for exam reviews. Again, like I said, I am not the only one doing exam reviews. So you will have access, to the whole schedule. So if you can't make my exam review, you can do another instructor's review. Like I said, I will absolutely suggest that you attend one of the live reviews. The live reviews, and I say live reviews if you can, because that gives you the opportunity to ask questions, right? So if the instructor says something, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't understand, or I need clarification. That live review, you have that interaction with with an instructor. There were, recorded reviews are there as well. Again, if the times don't work, if my office hours do not work, call me, text me, email me. We can figure out another time to meet. Is anybody doing clinicals on weekends or working on weekends?
I'm doing clinicals on Saturday, starting on the 19th, but it's only 4 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a clinical day and we have to do 129 preceptor hours along with all our classes. I don't even think we have an open day. It would have to be at nighttime.
Okay. I mean, that's fine with me as well. So, okay, so we'll figure that out. But let's go ahead and take a break. So be back at 10:10. Okay? All right. So we're going to do some introductions. So kind of give you an idea of who I am. So again, my name is Jennifer Martinez. I'm your instructor for the next 12 weeks. I am, let's see, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Um, and then I went to high school in the middle of nowhere, New Jersey. So up in the northwest corner of Virginia, over by the Poconos. I went from city to the middle of nowhere, big change. And then after high school, I joined the Navy. I spent 4 years in the Navy. I specialized, I shouldn't specialize, but I was a machinist mate. I worked down in the engine room on steam-powered ships. And then went to air conditioning and refrigeration technician school. So I was an AC and R tech. I worked on submarines. I worked on oh, um, I worked on submarines. I worked on their AC and R as well as um, what do you call it? And their oxygen and nitrogen systems. The let's see, got out of the Navy. I met my husband, we got married, have 4 adult children, 2 awesome grandkids. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter named Layla and an almost 1-year-old grandson named Caden. Let's see. My oldest is a federal police officer. I have 2 girls in the middle. They are both nurses. One's an RN and one's an LPN. And my youngest is a medical assistant. What else? I started as an LPN. I went to a technical, VOTEC high school, had an adult education program when I got out of the Navy. So I did my LPN through a traditional LPN program. So it took me 2 years to do my LPN. Worked in long-term care. When I first graduated, I love long-term care. And then to go back and get my RN, I decided to switch to pediatrics. So I went and worked in pediatrics while I went to school to get my RN. So I know what it's like. I worked full time. I went to school at night, had 3 kids and then 4 kids. My husband was still active duty. He's retired Navy now. But he was active duty, so he deployed while I was trying to go to school. So that made it a little bit more interesting, especially with time management and babysitters and daycare. And so and then I did my RN, then I did my BSN, then I did my master's. I have a postgrad certificate in healthcare education, and then I did my master's in healthcare administration. And then I started my DNP program in educational leadership. So I've been in education since 2012. In various roles. So I've done didactic, I've done clinical, lab, simulation. I have been in leadership as well. I've been with Fortis for 4.5 years. I was at the Richmond campus in Virginia as well as the Norfolk campus in Virginia. And then I recently relocated. I am down here in San Antonio, Texas, with my husband. All the kids are still back in Virginia and the grandkids. This is where teleportation would be an excellent thing. So I could just teleport myself home on the weekends so I could see my grandbabies, but that's still not going to happen. And so you only have a limited view of my office because the other side is still full of boxes that I have no idea what I am going to do with. In my spare time, Legos. I love Legos. I'm a huge Harry Potter geek, as well. And so I have most of the boxes that I haven't unpacked are my Legos, as a matter of fact, because I don't know what to do with them. I need shelves and things like that. But I do have a couple Legos in my desk. Like here's my little Eeyore, that I keep on my desk. Yeah, I love Eeyore. What else about me? I was an assistant scoutmaster for Boy Scouts for 20 years. So I put both my boys through Boy Scouts, my girls through Girl Scouts, and played soccer and did a lot of that stuff. But now older, reading, Legos, some of that less physical stuff is a little bit better for me now, as I tend to get older. But again, I'm here to help you be successful in this course. So again, if there's anything you need, feel free to reach out to me. So I'm gonna put y'all on the spot. Just, I'm gonna, say your name. And just at least, your name, what campus you're from, and then anything else that you would like to share. So is it Anastasia? Did I say that right? She is, where's Anastasia? She is not in front of her computer. Okay, so we'll go to, is it Anisha?
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
You want me to just go ahead and introduce myself?
Yes, ma'am.
My name's Anisha. I am at the Port St. Lucie campus. I am in the LPN program, and my whole reason for wanting to be in the LPN program is because of my experience with giving birth. It wasn't that great. So I want to be the change that I want to see. I know I'm only one person, but if I could treat someone the way that I wanted to be treated while giving birth, that makes, that's all I want to do. I have two babies, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they are my everything. And that's about. I recently got married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But that's it for me.
Well, thank you for sharing. Do you
Yes,
want to go into labor and delivery?
I do. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
But eventually, I probably won't start off there, but eventually I do want to go into labor and delivery.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Anastasia.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
I'm currently at Fortis Pensacola campus in LPN program. I came to US a little more than 2 years ago. And with my family, I have a daughter and husband. And I have background in psychology, so I think I will work in behavioral unit.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
Where are you from?
Ukraine.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Let's see. Courtney.
Sorry, it took me a minute to find the mute button. I go to Fortis at Pensacola, Florida campus. I'm in the LPN program, but I plan to bridge and get my RN as soon as I graduate. Because I want to go into more cosmetics because I have a background in dermatology. I did dermatology for 3 years before nursing school. So I'd like to go back into dermatology or something in that scenario. I'm 32 years old. I have a husband. I have 2 daughters, 12 and 8. We are a military family. He is deployed right now in Korea. So it's just us here, and I am 24 weeks pregnant. So by the time I'm graduating, I'll also be having a baby.
Oh, geez. Is your husband going to be back?
Yeah, they're going to send him home like 3 weeks beforehand.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's busy over here.
Yeah, it sounds like it. My son-in-law, he left in January. He is in Bahrain for the next 18 months. So my daughter is kind of like not that's her, 18 months. She's used to the 9-month deployments, not 18 months. So yeah,
Yeah, it's hard.
yeah, I understand that. All right. Let's see who's next. Destiny.
My name is Destiny. I'm at the Pensacola campus. I have 3 kids, 1, 8, and 10. I'm not gonna have any more, and I want to go into mental health.
Awesome. We do need more mental health providers. All right. Who's next? Let's see. Erica.
Hello, I'm
Hi.
Erica. I attend the Pensacola campus. I have 2 kids, 15 and 12. And I work in orthopedics right now with the foot doctor. So I just plan to do something in orthopedics. It may not be feet because I kind of want to leave there, but something else.
Okay. Awesome. All right. I like that. I don't know if I want to stay with feet. Gabrielle.
Hello, I'm Gabrielle. I'm at the Port St. Lucie campus. I'm a CNA now, so I just want to keep going, and I want to work in the emergency room.
You want to work where?
In the emergency room.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Awesome. Let's see. Jenny. You're on mute, Jenny. Oh, Jenny is freezing up. That's right. We'll skip Jenny how about Joy?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Joy. At the Port St. Lucie. I'm at the Port. I sort of want to go into wound care nursing. But I started like 10 years ago and, it got delayed. So I just picked up to continue my journey.
Awesome. Okay. Good job. And look at now, you're almost done, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, hello.
Hi,
I'm here.
Jenny.
Hi, my name is Jenny, and I attend Port St. Lucie campus. I have 2 beautiful daughters. I'm married, and I'm a CNA for 10 years. I just want to continue my education.
Awesome. Awesome. Who's next? Is it Naya? Did I say that right? Perry?
Yes.
What campus are you from?
Cuyahoga Falls.
Is there anything else you want to share?
That I would say that I got into nursing for aesthetics.
Okay. Okay. Do you have a history with cosmetology or?
Yes, I'm an esthetician. I've been an esthetician for like 8 years now. So I
Okay.
just decided to kind of like further my career because I'm mainly interested in like medical aesthetics.
Awesome. Okay. Very cool.
Thank you.
let's see. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to say this name right or not. Is it Quinny or Queenie?
Yeah, that's right, Quinny.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, so I'm Quinny. I attend at Fortis campus. I don't have much anything to say. I'm not sure where I would go for the specialty yet. I'm still indecisive on that.
Okay,
But
what campus are you at?
possibly, sorry,
Which campus?
Pensacola.
Oh, Pensacola. Okay. All right. And okay. Is it Tamisha or Tamesia?
Yes, Tamesia.
Tamesia. Okay.
Yeah. I'm from the Port St. Lucie campus. Um, CNA for 5 years, just want to continue, maybe cardiac or corrections.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then Viana.
Hi. I'm from the Cuyahoga Falls location and I have two little kids. They are 1 and 2. Um, and I would like to go into mental health. I am a suicide survivor, so that is a very big reason of why I want to go into nursing because I had wonderful nurses when I was in the psych ward. So
Well, we're glad you're here.
thank you.
But I did miss your campus. What campus were you again?
Oh, that's okay. I'm from Cuyahoga Falls.
You said it. I missed it.
That's okay.
All right. Did I get everybody? Think so. All right. So again, welcome. I'm glad we're all here together for the next 12 weeks. Looking forward to a great 12 weeks. So we have, what do we have? About an hour. So we're going to go through chapters 4 and chapter 12. Did anybody look at the chapters?
I still do not see the PowerPoints posted. I don't know if you got a chance to do that yet.
No, but I will get them in
Okay.
there.
Thank you.
Let's see. Give me like 5 minutes and I'll get them posted, okay? So let me just, as we're going. So chapter 4 is just the evolution of practical nursing. So I'm trying to multitask. So give me 1 second. Let's see. Sorry, my mouse is not wanting to cooperate. All of a sudden. All right. There we go. All right, they're in the announcements. And I will share my screen if you want to follow along via the PowerPoints. So again, whoops, let me share. So chapter 4 is just the, the history of, oops, all right, there we go. So a little bit about, the evolution of the practical nurses. And so, your school, Florida's college, right? You get a combination of theory, you get clinical simulation, you get clinical, you get lab hours. And so then, of course, after you graduate, you take your NCLEX, you can perform the job role of the LPN, aligned with whatever your specific state nurse practice act is. And most state regulations still stipulate that LPNs work under the supervision of the RN or healthcare provider. So of course, it's going to depend on where you're working, right? So I know one of my jobs as an LPN, although it feels like it was 100 years ago, I didn't have an RN supervisor. I worked directly with a medical doctor. And so he supervised me versus just because we didn't have an RN that was a supervisor. So the first school of nursing was founded in Kaiserwerth, Germany back in 1836, so quite a few years ago. And Florence Nightingale, I hope everybody knows who Florence is. She was one of the students. We do also know Florence as the founder of modern nursing. She really helped, to push for, nurses to be seen as professionals. And then, during the Crimean War, she helped the doctors with her untrained nurses, she, brought a lot to the care of patients. Even down to realizing how important hand washing was, right, to prevent the spread of disease or spread of infection from one patient to another. And then she established a school of nursing in England in 1860. So with Florence, her core beliefs, she believed in the perfection of mankind. She felt that nursing is a calling, a commitment to work for mankind. It was not a business. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I don't know what everybody's personal experience is with nursing, but I really believe that nursing is a calling. You have to want to be a nurse. And I say that because we do stuff that nobody else really wants to do, right? Think of, some of the things that we have to do. I know as a nurse, I have been peed on, I have been pooped on, I have been puked on, bled on, spit on, kicked, pinched. And that wasn't just the pediatric patients too. That was some of my geriatric patients, right? But you have to want to be here. You have to want to do it. We've got people's lives in our hands. We see them at their best days and we see them at their worst times. And so I really do. I personally, I feel that it is a calling. She was against licensure, linked to a union. But we do know that she didn't think that, nurses needed to be licensed. However, we know with the evolution of nursing, everybody needs to be licensed now. But she really did push for us to be, a profession, to be seen and recognized as professionals, not just, worker bees, that we should be respected. In the United States or in America, the first nursing school was started by Pastor Fleidner of Germany. And then the hospital known as Pittsburgh Infirmary still exists in Pennsylvania. It's Passavant Hospital now. And then, you know, as the nursing shortage continued, that's when we started, you know, with the hospital-based schools of nursing emerged. It was cost-effective labor force for the hospitals. So if anybody, you know, knows anything about hospital-based nursing programs or nursing student programs, you know, all of your clinicals are basically, you know, set up through that, whatever hospital it is system that you're working with. And so it kind of does help to fill in with some staffing needs, right? So as, you know, nursing students, we often feel like we were, you know, unpaid labor, right? You're going in and you're taking care of, you know, the patients, providing all their care, you know, learning is the goal, right? To learn how to care for your patients. But that was a way for them to help fill some of those staffing needs. And then we have our formal training. So in 1893, the Ballard School of Nursing opened in Brooklyn, New York. Courses were 3 months long. They focused on home health care for the chronically ill, the elderly, and children. So a lot of the initial you know, nursing work was done in patients' homes. And so these programs, you know, they taught, you know, taught cooking, nutrition, basic sciences, basic nursing procedures. So it was a little bit, you know, different. Again, it was home nursing, light housekeeping duties is what they were taught. Again, before World War I, most of the nursing was done in the client's home. So it's just an interesting, you know, switch and change. And then, you know, back in the early 1900s, 1903, states began to take steps that led to the monitoring of practical nursing. Organizations were developed, like your National League of Nursing, to develop a nationwide system of standardization of nursing requirements for practical nursing, right? So kind of basically set the guidelines that, you know, each school of nursing had to teach such and such. So that it was pretty standardized across the board. Different, you know, you go to different nursing schools, right? So I don't know all the nursing schools in the United States, but you know, you can go to your state boards of nursing. The state board of nursing is going to give you an idea of what is required for that state board of nursing. So pretty much across the board, the requirements for most nursing programs are very similar. There may be some changes with, you know, clinical hours may be different from one state to another. You know, certain course requirements may be different from one, you know, to another, like, I'm trying to think, like New York, in order to get licensed in New York, you have to take a child abuse course in order to get your license. You know, there may be certain requirements as far as like education. So like, I'm trying to think, like there may be like a HIV section that you may have to take. Some, you know, some boards of nursing, you know, require certain, you know, like they may require math and English for a practical nursing program, right? So it really just depends, you know, there could be different requirements from state to state. Mississippi was the first state to pass a law licensing practical nurses, and licensing wasn't mandatory. And then in 1938, New York was the only state requiring mandatory licensure. And then that kind of proceeds to now, whereas all states require mandatory licensure for nurses, including your practical nurses. So you make it through nursing school, right? Then you have to pass that wonderful NCLEX in order for you to become licensed in your state to actually practice as a nurse. In 1944, the U.S. Department of Vocational Education conducted a study of practical nursing, and that's where they agreed upon the tasks for practical nurses. The phrases used to describe LPN scope of practice: judge, appraise, recognize, and determine. So if you look at those 4 terms, that kind of helps you, it, fits right in there with that nursing process. The Joint Committee on Practical Nurses and Auxiliary Workers and Nursing Service recommended the use of the title LPN. And then it also differentiated the tasks of the RN and the LPN, including the LPN, of course, being under the supervision of the RN. And don't focus here on the dates and stuff. This is just, kind of an overview, so you don't have to, like worry about, oh my gosh, what dates for stuff. The ANA, so recommended that nurses or RNs graduated from a 4-year college program, right? So a lot of the initial nursing programs were 4-year programs. And then LPNs graduated from a 2-year technical program. So like I said, I went to a 2-year technical program. It was out of a high school, so adult education in a high school. So it ran the same length of time like a normal, public school year. So September to, I think it was May. And then we got like, a little bit of a summer break, and then we came back and we finished and graduated in April of the following year. And then the nursing shortage. That is where we had the 2-year associate's degree. So, we can get nurses out, with the 2-year program faster into the workforce. And then we have our assisted personnel. So our unlicensed assisted personnel started in the 90s. They were hired to give patient care. The biggest concern with unlicensed assisted personnel, right, was the legal responsibility. The RN or the LPN, we are overall responsible for the care that our unlicensed assisted personnel give, whether it's a CNA, a care partner, what else do they call them? Care technicians. Trying to think, there's other terms out there as well. But generally speaking, and when you delegate care to somebody else, you are still overall responsible for the care that they provide. And then LPN move, excuse me, LPN employment moved back from the hospitals back into the community. So we're providing a lot more care. I don't know what's going on with my voice. I apologize. The first computerized testing for NCLEX was in 1994. Before 1994, I don't know if anybody knows any older nurses out there. I'm going to use my mom as an example because my mom was also a nurse. So she took her NCLEX in New Jersey. I can't remember what year she graduated, so please forgive me. It was probably like she graduated, I was in middle school. So it was like probably like 1985, 1986, somewhere along there. She graduated from nursing school. She went to a 2-year program at a community college in New Jersey. And back then it was 2 days of testing. So they only offered the NCLEX 1 time per year. So, and it was always I think it was like June anyway. So it was over the weekend. So it was a Saturday and a Sunday of testing. It was down in Atlantic City. So they rented out like one of the casinos, with the big like auditorium type things. And they literally went in, everything was pen and paper. So, and it wasn't just like, here's a whole bunch of multiple choice questions. Like they did have some multiple choice. A lot of them were short answer, dosage calc. They literally had to write a care plan as part of their NCLEX. It was, like I said, it was 2 days, 8 hours per day of testing. And then because it was handwritten, right, it took them 6 months in order to get their results. And so they could work as a, I forget, I don't know if they I forget what the term was back then, but they could work while they were waiting for their NCLEX results. And then, of course, once, they got their NCLEX results, if they passed, they they got their official title. And then if they were unsuccessful, they had to wait a whole nother year. So I remember when I was in high school, like as I was getting ready I was working at Pizza Hut as a waitress. One of the girls that I worked with, she had taken the NCLEX 4 times. But because it was yearly, so, if you didn't pass, you had to wait a whole nother year. It was really crazy. But yeah, so now you can see how much more convenient it is to take your NCLEX. Not always get the best, you might still have to wait to get a time slot, right, to take your exam, but you don't have to wait a whole year. In 1996, long-term care certification became available to LPNs. The goals of the AD programs, your associate degree programs, were to move nursing education out of the hospital-based programs, and then help ease the shortage by shortening the amount of time required to become an RN. So now, think about it, those 2-year programs, I've seen, I think the shortest LPN or the shortest RN program I've seen is probably like 18 months, is the shortest I've seen. And that is short. It's crammed full of information. And then, of course, COVID-19, the pandemic put a tremendous strain on the healthcare workforce, leading to a greater nursing shortage. So with COVID, I know COVID is still pretty fresh in everybody's mind. I worked a COVID unit during COVID. It was right before I started at Fortis. And it was hard. They tried, they brought us out, they made us look like heroes, right? For a little bit of time. But we lost a lot of nurses. We did lose some to COVID itself. But then a lot of nurses decided to basically leave nursing, which put us into a nursing shortage, which we were already expecting a nursing shortage, as it is. And it was actually, I was in the class yesterday. I look at Indeed and I look to see, what jobs are out there for nurses and things like that. One thing that I have noticed about moving to Texas is there's not a whole lot of nursing jobs available, which is interesting. I forget now, I'm trying to think of where I read it. Oh my gosh, where did I read it? I read it last night. After I said that in class, I was looking with the nursing shortage, the majority of states are going to be short. Texas is going to have an abundance of nurses, which is so interesting to me. Because I came from Virginia where there's like plenty of nursing positions. So you pretty much find a job if you're looking for one. Down here, they just don't have the positions. We have an abundance of nurses. So I thought that was really interesting. We also, I noticed down here, don't have as many nursing programs within the area. So it was like that. I mean, I guess maybe I'm looking more at like Fortis type schools. There's a whole bunch of universities in San Antonio that I was like, there's a school like all the universities you've got, University of Texas, University of the Incarnate Word. You have like community colleges all over the place. So there's not a shortage of nursing programs, but they all seem to, there's no issues with nursing staffing down here. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So probably, if not the best place to be if you're looking for a nursing position, it may take a little bit getting into it. So just thought that was pretty interesting. But COVID did. And then we had a little bit of a, with COVID, we had more people that were trying to get into nursing school. And I think the response to that was a little bit varied. Some truly wanted to come into nursing to help. Others saw more of the other side of nursing with the travel contracts and saw all the, lots of money that was being made through travel contracts. So it was pretty interesting. But any questions on chapter 4? All right, so before I pull up chapter 12 PowerPoint, actually, mine might not pull it up because you guys all have it now. What is the nursing process?
Add pie.
Okay, add pie. What is A?
Assessment.
What is D?
Diagnosis.
All right, what is P?
Planning.
Planning. I?
Intervention.
And E is?
Evaluate.
All right, awesome. So it was established by the American Nurses Association. It's a 5-step process. And it just helps to provide structure for, thinking in nursing, right? And so it is, helps with problem solving. It's evidence-based, right? What else? It's just a really good way for us to identify as well as to respond to patient needs within our scope of practice. And so this is where, that holistic care comes into play, your physiologic, your psychologic, your social, your spiritual needs. And it really just kind of helps to pull everything together. And you can use AdPi with anything that you do, especially just to kind of get used to it. But it also provides a way for us to communicate with other nurses as well as caregivers. And so each step of the nursing process is unique, and it really kind of helps you to keep everything straight. So when we look at the nursing process from LPN scope of practice, right? LPNs, they say LPNs don't really do assessments, right? What do LPNs do? What is the term for assessment that LPNs perform? What do we do? Maybe I didn't answer that right. But go ahead. Somebody was going to say something.
I was just saying we can reassess.
Okay, you can reassess, but we
For the
gather data,
RN.
right? We gather data as part of our assessment. Now, depending on where you work, so in LPN in long-term care, they may actually be the ones doing the, initial meeting of the residents as they're being admitted into the facilities. But the assessment should be followed up by an RN. And it's a collaborative effort, right? Getting all that information about your patient, and then, documenting, and working with our end and make sure that nothing was missed. And so it is a collaborative process. But when we're gathering data, what kind of data are we gathering? What are the 2 types of data that we are gathering?
Subjective and objective.
Very good. So what is subjective data?
What
What
they're
the patient
saying to you.
Says.
Right, exactly. It's what the patient tells us, right? I have a headache, my stomach hurts, I feel dizzy, I have ringing in my ears, I have double vision, my teeth hurt, right? My big toe hurts. I got a cramp on my side, right? It's all that subjective information. That is what the patient is telling us. And so we, have to kind of go by what they're saying, right? And it's not just the patient. Think of different populations of people. in our infants and young children, right? It may be the parent, it may be the caregiver that is giving us information. In certain cases with like dementia patients, right? That we might be getting information from other caregivers, family members. What is objective information?
Something you can measure.
Very good. It's something that's quantifiable. It's tangible almost, right? Your vital signs, right? Give us numbers, right? We get a blood pressure, we get a pulse, respiration, we got a pulse ox, a temperature, and then it's also things like lab values, right? And then it's our senses. It's what we see, feel, hear, taste, smell. Anybody ever smell something so bad that you can almost taste it? Yes. Who's encountered C. diff? Yeah, only a couple. Okay. So when you finally encounter C. diff, you'll never forget it. It will be forever implanted in your olfactory memory that you'll be like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what that smell is, right? But that objective information is something that we can quantify. And so, that is the two roles within the, gathering data information. Other things, is also verifying the data. And so, validation is key. Making sure that the data matches, comparing it to medical records, that, you also want to, verify data with other nurses, with CNAs. So I was trying to think of this, and I can't remember exactly, what the whole, oh, I remember it was. So, I was working a unit. This was back in January. And I was a unit manager, the nurse, one of the nurses comes to me and was like, hey, Mrs. So-and-so, she's like really short of breath. She's like out of it. She won't answer any questions and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay. And she said she was having chest pain. That's the other one. And so I'm like, okay, let me run in there real quick. So I grab my stethoscope and I go run into the room. And the lady is sitting on the side of the bed. And I was like, hey, I'm like, how are you feeling? She goes, I'm fine. And I'm like, okay. I was like, were you having some chest pain? Like, I didn't know what to do. And she was like, yeah. Oh, she was like, oh yeah, but it's gone. I don't have any chest pain anymore. And I'm like, I'm looking at her and I'm like, she looked okay. Her vital signs were actually okay. And so I walked back out of the room, and I'm talking with the nurse, and the nurse was like, she is not telling you the whole story. She said because she was having chest pain, she took her nitro. And then she told me that the chest pain was not me, but she had told the other nurse that the chest pain didn't go away after she took her nitro. So I go back in there and I'm like, let's have a different conversation. And I was like, were you having chest pain? And she said, yes. I said, did you use your nitro? And she said, yes. I said, are you still having chest pain? And she looked at me and I was like, are you still having chest pain? And then I got a totally different answer. She said, yes. And I said, okay, well, we're going to call 911 and we're going to go ahead and send you back to the hospital. Because she did have a history of unstable angina. And the last thing I wanted her to do was have another heart attack. So, even just from one nurse to another, verifying that data, to kind of get the whole picture. Again, your clients' families, your caregivers, they also may help to verify information or validate information if you kind of get a mixed response from the client. And then we want to make sure that we're documenting everything, right? So anything the patient tells us, any of our observations. We want to make sure that we're documenting those. So that we have, really good records to start with. Some of the things that we also, medications, right? Asking what medications they're taking, how they're taking them, why they're taking them, how often they're taking them is super important as well. You'd be surprised at how many people, don't always know why they're taking certain medications, right? They just know, hey, the doctor prescribed them for me. Not really sure why, why I'm taking them. Anybody ever come across a patient? Yeah, I take all these medications, but I don't know why I'm taking them. So that's another thing. Education is also something that is really important when we're doing that. What do you think are some barriers that we may have in collecting data from our clients or our patients?
Can you repeat that?
What do you think are some barriers that may language barriers? How do we overcome a language barrier?
Interpreter.
Absolutely. Interpreters, right? Making sure we're using professional interpreters. Don't want to use family as interpreters, right? Because that could be a conflict of interest. You have to be really careful with that. So every healthcare facility has to have, and has to have access to an interpreter. We actually had a deaf patient that was admitted. And so that was, think about that. You can't just pick up a phone, right? And use an interpreter on a phone. So it's interesting. There's an app on the iPad, forget what it's called. But he signs into the app. He has access to an ASL interpreter. So he does his signing to, whoever the interpreter was, and then we can talk to the interpreter through the iPad and they can sign back and forth and she can tell us what he's saying. So it's always best to use professional interpreters. What else?
Beliefs.
Say that again.
Beliefs, how a person perceives her pain, what she thinks about health and illness. Somebody likes to suffer, or somebody thinks that it's okay to be ill or sick. So
Religion.
Okay, absolutely. Say that again, Courtney.
Religion.
Religion can be a barrier. It can make it, a little bit, more difficult in certain situations, right, to deal with patients. And so that's why, and then that helps us when we're doing our data collection, that we're assessing, right, those religious and cultural beliefs, so that we can provide culturally competent care. What about personal bias? Do you think that can play a part in our collection of data? So thinking about, doing a self-inventory, right? So what are some of this can be a rhetorical question, just can be food for thought. But what are some of the things that, we have our own personal biases against, right? We can go with some of the hot topics like, abortion beliefs. But you can also go into just looking at the state of, our country right now, with, school shootings and bombings and all of this stuff, right? What if you are working in the emergency room and you have to take care of someone who just, did a mass shooting, right? So we as nurses, right, we are here to provide care regardless, and to all humans regardless, right? So we have to be able to put our personal feelings kind of on the back burner, right, in order to deal with our patients, to work with our patients. And so, had, like I said, sometimes doing that good self inventory kind of, assists us in getting good understanding of ourselves. So when we're, going to deal with our patients. For the nursing diagnoses, the goals, interventions, the RN is going to develop the nursing diagnoses, the goals and interventions. And then, as an LPN, we're going to collaborate with the RN to do that. So in your campuses, do you use concept maps or care planning? Concept maps? No?
We use the concept maps.
I
Concept
don't think
maps?
we've used
Okay.
either since like the first semester.
I'm sorry?
The same.
We did both, but we haven't done that since like we began school.
Okay. If you ask me, I would much rather write a concept map than a care plan.
Same. Care plans are terrible.
Um, and so I think of my mom, and I wish I still had them, but I think I had gotten rid of them. So, when my mom, well, even when I went to nursing school, we didn't have computers. We, didn't have like all this fancy technology. But of course, when my mom went to school was even before that, they actually had to go to the library and do research, pick out books. But they had their care plans were on those like legal sheets of paper. So not, the 11 by 13. So they were like super big. And like one of her care plans would be like, 8 to 10 pages long. And, she saved them, I guess, for posterity. And I, of course, held on to them for a little while. And I'm like I remember looking at them when I was in nursing school and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope to gosh, I never have to do this. And of course, when I went to nursing school, we did have to write care plans. They weren't 8 to 10 pages, but they were pretty extensive. Um, and so, yeah, don't care plans, have come a long way, especially now since they're computerized, it does make it a little bit easier. Um, Care plans are, they are necessary. We do write care plans for our patients. It doesn't have to include every single one of the patient's health problems. That's where we look at prioritization of care. So everybody knows who Abraham Maslow is, right? In his hierarchy of needs. So that, for the most part, we're going to use Maslow's hierarchy of needs in order to prioritize, the needs of our patients. That lowest level is your physiological needs. And then of course, we work up, we go to safety, right? Things like that. But a lot of times, we're going to prioritize what's the most important. And then we can kind of, go from there. Who's the center of the care plan or who's the center of the nursing process, I should say?
The patient?
The patient.
Yeah, the patient, right? So when we are looking at our nursing diagnoses and we're looking at, setting our goals and our interventions, right? Our patients should have an input, right? They should be part of this process. They need to know what's going on as well. And so, getting them, to help, set that plan of care is key. They're technically the ones that are really going to do a lot of the work and help, in achieving their plan of care. So having them, as part of it is kind of key. when we're looking at goals and outcomes, goals state a general intent about what is to be accomplished. So, you know, whether it's you're sitting down to study for a test, or we're trying to get a patient up out of bed who's been in bed for an extended period of time, right? They all should have, you know, the goal is, you know, what is to be accomplished. And, you know, how do we help our patient get to that goal? So they need to be realistic, which means they need to be attainable by the client based on their condition, their desire, right? So if you had a patient who had a hip fracture, right, we're not going to have them running a marathon by, you know, day 14, right? So we need to make sure that they are, you know, attainable. They're also need to be measurable. Measurable will allow us to know that they've been able to meet that outcome. And then time reference. So how long is it going to take them to achieve their goal? We have short-term goals, we have long-term goals, right? Short-term goals can be within the hour, they can be within the shift, they can be within a few days. And then of course, your long-term goals are going to take a little bit longer. Depending on where you work, depending on the, you know, the patient and what is going on with those, you know, with that patient. Those long-term goals can be as far as 3 months out. Some cases they can be as far as 6 months out. Really just depends on what's going on with them. And then, you know, so putting it all together. Nursing diagnoses. Everybody loves nursing diagnoses, right? We use our NANDA eyes, right? So to make our nursing diagnoses. And I'll just use the nursing diagnosis that's in the PowerPoint. So the nursing diagnosis is altered nutrition, eating less than the body needs. So how many parts to a nursing diagnosis are there? Think of a full nursing diagnosis. How many parts are there?
Maybe 3.
3, yes. Okay, so you have your nursing diagnosis, you have the problem, and then you have the related to, right? So in this situation, we have altered nutrition, eating less than body needs, related to loss of appetite and weakness, and then you're as evidenced by, right? What do we see, right? The client, you know, only ate, you know, 25% of their meals. The client didn't drink any of their liquids, or only drank, you know, a small portion of their liquids, whatever it is, right? So we have the nursing diagnosis, what it's related to, and what it's as evidenced by. The only time we won't have all 3 parts is if we have a risk diagnosis, right? So the risk diagnosis, the reason is because we don't have any evidence, right? They're just at risk, right? So if we have a, say we have a patient that comes in and we give them, let's say we give them some opioids, or we give them some morphine, for a trauma, okay, that automatically puts them at a risk for falls, right? They haven't fallen yet, right? But they're at risk for falls because we gave them medication that's going to make them unsteady on their feet, right? So it hasn't happened yet, so we're not going to have that evidence to support it. So the nursing diagnosis is going to be written by the RN. They're gonna, you know, try to provide the, you know, related to as evidenced by. And then we want to look at an outcome. So what are, you know, the outcome here is that the client will eat 1,500 calories of ground foods. They'll drink 2,000 milliliters of liquids during each 24-hour period by day 10. Okay. And so that's kind of what we're looking for. Then we have to come up with our interventions or implementation. What are we going to do to help our client get to that point, right? So if I'm only eating 5% of my meal now, how am, I've got, and I want to get that patient up to eating a full meal by day 10. What are some things that I can do to assist my patient in meeting those caloric and fluid needs, right? Am I going to put, so let's take 1,500 divided by 3. That's a 500. Can I math this morning? So it's about 500 calories per meal. That's a lot of calories to sit down in one meal, right? What are some things that we can do? So we can do, smaller meals instead of 3 big ones, making sure that they're, comfortable when they're eating. Assist them with feeding if needed. Otherwise, they should be able to feed, if they can feed themselves, allow them to feed themselves. And then, of course, offer fluids. Other things like, what are their favorite foods to eat or drink, right? I will tell you honestly, if you give me a whole bunch of water, I'm not going to drink it. I don't like to drink water, right? I like flavored water. I will drink flavored water, but if you just give me some plain water, I'm probably not going to drink it, right? So what are some of their favorite things to drink? Apple juice, give it some flavor. My mom, when she was in hospice, couldn't get her favorite was orange soda. She loved Fanta orange soda. So I would take her orange soda and I would dilute it. So I would do like half orange soda, half water, but that would get her to drink her fluids, right? So how do we, there has to be some compromise, right? So what are some other ways to get fluid in them? Ice cream is another one. My mom was an ice cream addict. She would eat ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and she wouldn't really get any other, any other fluids in her. But if I could get some ice cream in her, at least I wouldn't worry too much about her becoming dehydrated. So we have to take all this into consideration. We have to look at the patient holistically and see what their preferences are as we're writing our, our goals and our interventions. Because that is how we're going to get the best, right, response from our patient. And then we're going to go back and we're going to put all our wonderful little interventions in place. And then we're going to go back and we're going to evaluate. So let's say by day 10, our patient still isn't eating the 1,500 calories and drinking the 2,000 milliliters of liquid. Do we just forget about it and go on our business?
No.
What do we do?
Wouldn't we look for a deeper solution? Like what's the underlying cause? And then maybe if she's not eating at all for weeks or drink anything, we'd have to do like a feeding tube.
Okay. So what is stopping us, right? What is stopping us? What is stopping the client from eating and drinking, their caloric needs? Maybe we have, we're not just going to throw it to the side and forget about it. Okay. And right, patient didn't meet goal, right? That's the wonderful thing about the nursing process and those nursing care plans, right? It's evolving, it's ever changing. We can rewrite, we can readjust, we can go back and we can look at, what was done, what didn't work, and then we can readjust our goals, readjust our interventions, and kind of just you can almost restart that one diagnosis. And that's true for all of them. Now, if we have another nursing diagnosis and goal that was met, then we can close that off of our nursing care plan. Doesn't mean we're not going to start, we're not going to want to keep watching out, right? Who is it that wants to do wound care? Somebody wanted to do wound care. I don't remember who it was. But, think of things like that, right? Patient, we write a goal that patient will remain, free of, new areas or new pressure areas, or skin will remain intact for, the next 90 days. Well, if their skin is intact in 90 days, do we just throw it away? No, we got to keep going on it, right? Making sure that we're keeping measures in place to prevent any wounds from occurring. So there's it's just ever evolving and it's ever changing. What else? Talked about care plans. And so the rest is then documentation, right? So making sure, we're documenting at each level, and looking, like, Courtney said, right? We're going to go back and we're going to look and what can we do, different, what we can do better. And that will help us to kind of, move forward. But yeah. So what was the word I wanted to ask? I wanted to ask a question and I just like lost my train of thought. I apologize for that. So when you guys are in your classes, do you do like one concept map per clinical day, or do you do like a couple throughout the term, that kind of thing?
We did a couple of them for
Just a
clinical.
couple during the term. Okay.
We do we do them per clinical day. It's like a little packet that we have to do.
Okay. So it's a good way to kind of, get you in the habit. What's really nice is, and I don't know how much, like, I'm sure some of you have had exposure to the online electronic medical records. So what's nice with those, right, as you're inputting your data that you're collecting from your patients, it automatically will generate specific nursing diagnoses for your patients. And then you can go in and you can choose, interventions related to those. Nursing is not the only one that has input on those care plans, right? It is multidisciplinary. So your therapist, your physical therapist, your occupational, your respiratory, your speech, your social workers, your dietitians, and then depending on where you're working, a lot of, other people may have access to care plans and actually have input on care plans and helping patients meet goals and things like that. Especially in long-term care, those care plans are super important. They are, something that is looked at by multiple organizations, to make sure that patients are receiving appropriate care, while they are in, a facility, whether they're there short-term or long-term. And so, making sure that, we're looking at those care plans, when we're providing patient care. And like I said, if it's not working, if the goal isn't, if the interventions aren't helping us to meet those goals, and we need to go back and we need to readjust, and reassess and, look at some new interventions, to help our patients, to achieve those goals. And then, sometimes you have to kind of start from scratch and really look, down at the nitty gritty, to see what is going on in order to help them. So, all right. Any questions at all from today? What can I answer for you?
Will the classes be recorded?
Classes are recorded. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, like, well, we can go back and watch them.
Absolutely. Yep. I will post a recording into the announcements. So I will tell you, just as what's the word I'm looking for? A disclaimer. I did tell you I'm from Brooklyn, right? I said that. I tend to talk really fast sometimes. And so I apologize. If you need me to slow down, somebody has to say, hey, Miss Martinez, slow down a little bit. You're going a little bit too fast. I always did that as a disclaimer when I was teaching in the classroom, because I do. Sometimes I get super excited about what I'm talking about, and that even gets worse. Then I start even getting louder. I get louder and faster. So just tell me to slow down. Just like you're going too fast, even if it's in in the chat, just be like, slow down just a little bit. But yeah, so anything else?
Professor,
I'm sorry.
Professor, the quiz will be on chapters 4 and 12.
So the quiz for chapter 1 is going to be on 4/12, and then the chapters from next week. So remember, quiz 1 and quiz 2, we're going to take at the end of class next week, or at the end of class. So next week, week 2 and week 3, the quizzes will be at the end of class. And then 3, 4, and 5 will be at the beginning of class. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Stare at each other for the next 3 minutes. I'm just kidding. Say, so yes. So I really do. My suggestions, like I said, I know that you guys have a lot going on this term. I understand that a lot. Like I said, I was on campus for a little over 4 years. So I know what this last term was like for you guys. And you have a lot going on. Trying to glance at the chapters, try to get an idea of what the topics are in the or at least for the readings for the week. That will help a lot as we move forward. There's a lot of, things like delegation and prioritization, that is going to be a big part of, this course moving forward. Knowing your Nurse Practice Act. And so we've got mostly Florida schools, but we do have some Ohio in here as well. And so knowing your Nurse Practice Act and what you can do as an LPN in your prospective state, is going to be super important. And then, what can your, unlicensed assistive personnel do? What can a CNA do? And you'll forgive me because I don't know what they're called in Ohio and I don't know what they're called in Florida, but like a patient care tech or a patient care assistant in the hospitals, right? Sometimes their scope of practice is different from a CNA. And I can use Virginia as an example. So in Virginia, of course, CNAs are hired in the hospitals. But there is a clear difference between a CNA and a patient care technician. A patient care technician has a different scope of practice than a CNA does. All right. And so, they can do blood sugars, they can do blood draws, in addition to the vital signs. So there's a different scope of practice for the two. And so it's really important to understand what your unlicensed assistant personnel are allowed to do. So that helps you to guide your delegation, right? Because you definitely don't want to tell, a CNA to go and draw blood if that's not within their scope of practice, right? And then in some states, CNAs can actually do tube feeding administration and things like that. So it's, that's where looking at your Nurse Practice Acts and kind of getting an idea of what your unlicensed assistant personnel can do, really helps you with your delegation. Anybody looked at your Nurse Practice Act at all yet? No? Well, it's part of one of your assignments, so I know you're going to have to look at it. So there's
But as
that.
far as testing wise, though, like
for your test, it's all going to be the same. It wouldn't be by our state.
Correct. It's all generalized information. No, it's not state specific.
Okay.
No, I would not do that. No. But it's just for you to kind of think as you're moving forward, like as you're getting prepared for licensure and things like that, those are some things that you need to kind of keep in the back of your head.